Hi, everyone. Hi. We're just going to do a quick check-in with Neal Katyal. Katyal. That sound weird. Hi, everybody. Hi, Mary. So we thought we'd talk to Neal about the CNN Trump town hall and get his reaction to some of the claims he made. And I don't know, I just miss Neal. I haven't talked to him for a while. He's in Brussels right now. You all know Neal. You know him. You love him. He is, of course, the former Acting Solicitor General of the U.S. Hi, everybody. We're talking about the town hall meeting, town hall with former President Donald Trump last night on CNN. Hey, Neal, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. How's Brussels?
Oh, it's thrilling.
What are you doing there?
Oh, just some work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, listen, I just wanted to check in with you. I haven't talked to you for a while. I miss you. I think our viewers miss you. And, as I watched this town hall meeting and heard from President Trump, I know that you didn't, someone said they were so upset they couldn't sleep. Someone's asking why CNN gave him a platform. I think it's very complex and confusing in terms of how the media will cover Donald Trump if, in fact, he is the Republican candidate in 2024. But let me just get your general reaction to how you felt about the town hall meeting and about Donald Trump's, I guess you'd call it, performance.
So, Katie is a lawyer. I'll defend almost anything, but I can't defend what CNN did here. I just think it was a real dereliction of duty. I have lots of sympathy for the CNN, reporter up there, Caitlin Collins, but it was a mistake, I think, for CNN to do it, and certainly to do it in this way. Trump just ran roughshod over everything, and there's a whole kind of feedback loop created with the audience, and the audience, as I understand it, wasn't exactly a cross section of the American public,
No.
and it's a bit heartbreaking, particularly like the laughing during when Trump made fun of Jean Carroll. I mean, regardless of how you feel about the case and whatever, I mean, this is a human being who obviously has gone through something horrendous. And I just found the whole tone in the setup of the thing to be um, pretty terrible. I mean, and I understand that there's I never want to squelch someone's speech, particularly someone who's running for president, but Trump has lots of microphones available to him. And to do it in this way, in which he just ran roughshod over the thing, I think just wasn't a service to voters, wasn't a service to democracy. And it allowed him to lie, lie, lie. I mean, if
Yeah.
this were Pinocchio, his nose would stretch to the moon at this point. So I'm
I
happy to
think,
talk specifically, but yeah.
for for what it's worth, I mean, I think it was a very difficult situation. I have a lot of sympathy for Caitlin Collins because I've been in those situations before. But I think the combination of doing an actual in-depth interview where someone could put the facts out, which the American people and everyone in that auditorium deserves, the counter argument and the truth about the rigged election and the truth about 9-month abortions, which was completely unchallenged. The truth about, good people and during, participating in the insurrection. I mean, that requires such a deep well of knowledge, and you can't really do that and be asked to call on people from the audience at the same time. There was never an opportunity to
Right.
really roll up your sleeves and say, let's talk about this. And someone said they were all Trumpers. Well, they were all Republicans or independents who are interested in participating in the Republican primary in New Hampshire. So I felt that was really poorly executed. And to have an audience of that made up, with that composition was completely wrong. And to have them snickering as Trump sneered and have them applauding when he was insulting people, I thought that did a real disservice to CNN and to the audience watching. So I thought that was was terrible. So this, I mean, I guess a couple of questions. And I've been really troubled by this whole thing. And I think the media has a real challenge how they're going to cover Donald Trump. The comment about Chinese people, that's right, about Chinatown. There were so many comments that needed to be challenged. But it's sort of like, I mean, everything coming out of his mouth practically needed to be challenged. So I guess the question is, with E. Jean Carroll, you know, she sued him for defamation, and he defamed her once again during this town hall meeting. So I guess the question is, could she sue him again?
100% she can. I mean, I don't think, she's already won $5 million against him. And, these cases aren't easy to win. Let's not pretend that anything otherwise. And Trump had excellent attorneys representing him and the like. It's just Trump was afraid to show up in court and say anything. So he hid from the jury, and you got this verdict. And yesterday, he called her lawsuit fake. He said it was a made-up story. He said he never met her. At least a couple of those have already been conclusively determined not to be true by this jury. And yes, it allows Jean Carroll to walk in tomorrow. And as I understand it, her attorney is already saying she's thinking of filing another lawsuit. And they may very well do that. Again, do you really want to force Jean Carroll to do it? No. I mean, it's totally up to her. She's already won. Trump says he's going to appeal. Good luck with that. I don't think that's going anywhere. The idea that he can't get a fair trial in New York, is thoroughly preposterous. I mean, it's a big city, and they had, voir dire, and they got to cross-examine the jurors and make sure that they weren't biased and the like. So these claims are going nowhere. He's going to pay the $5 million, and, he might have to pay more with these lies.
I want to ask you about some of the other things, the rigged election claim. There have been, I believe, 60 judges that have found complaints that were brought by either Trump or his allies or like-minded people that did not they were lacking merit, or they had technicalities, but most of them just completely lacked merit, right?
Yeah.
So, and AP did an exhaustive research project where they really investigated all 6 states where he said things were going on. So I guess the question is, he keeps saying this, but and I think Caitlin Collins rightly said you can't keep saying that. But I wish she had said why he can't keep saying that, and the counter argument to this rigged election lie, which, by the way, I saw a recent poll, 63% of Republicans, despite the fact that they think that there's evidence lacking, they still believe that it was rigged.
Yeah. So let's start with some facts. So first of all, President Biden won the election by over 7 million votes. Okay, so that's to start. Now, Trump's claim yesterday was there was millions of votes that were ballot stuffed. The technical term for this is a lie. Georgia officials investigated all of this with a Republican Secretary of State, concluded there was nothing to these allegations. Bill Barr, Trump's Attorney General, said this is all made up. Trump's only support, which he cited yesterday, was some organization called True the Vote, which is not a real organization. It's just a bunch of right-wingers. And it reminds me of when I was a high school debater, Katie, and we would just cite, as long as you could have the craziest claim imaginable, you just had to have anyone say it. It didn't matter who they were. And that's basically what Trump's done. He's found like some rando people who said millions of ballots were stuffed, and then he goes on national TV and says it. And you're absolutely right. It's a huge challenge for the media. How do you present this when there's lie after lie after lie after lie, and it comes at you like a fire hose? And so no one journalist up there can correct everything. I mean, we've certainly seen great examples like Savannah Guthrie in the presidential debate. I mean, perform the way you would, was able to actually fact check in real time. But it's very hard
Very
thing to
hard. I
do.
mean,
Right.
it's virtually impossible, I think, especially because he just steamrolls and talks over you and doesn't respond. And, it's very, very
Well,
tricky. I'm not sure anyone could have done a better job,
well,
honestly. I was like, God, I would be such a nervous wreck having to deal with that. But can I ask you a couple of other questions about these investigations? He falsely claimed, I didn't ask Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State of Georgia, to find anything. He said, you owe me votes because the election was rigged. And of course, we have him on tape, on audio tape, making the request for 11,700 votes. What is going on in Georgia? I mean, I think what is going on with all these investigations?
yeah, so there's four investigations going on. There is the Georgia investigation into the rigging, find me 11,780 votes. And it looked like we were going to get indictments, who knows who they were, but indictments pretty soon because the grand jury is done with its work. But some of the electors and the fake electors scheme were represented by a certain lawyer, and that lawyer evidently didn't tell the clients that there was a plea deal on the table or a cooperation agreement and the like. There's some accusations now that something untoward happened with those electors, and that's delayed things. So the district attorney, the prosecutor there, has said she'll make decisions from July to September. So that's a little bit more on the back burner. We then have
What
the
if,
New York criminal investigation, which has led to an indictment of Donald Trump. So there's that. That's for the Stormy Daniels, all the stuff we've talked about in the past. And then there are two federal investigations, one into the stolen documents at Mar-a-Lago, which came up yesterday, worth talking about in a minute. And second, the January 6th federal investigation into whether Trump obstructed official proceedings of Congress and the like. We don't know the timings, Katie, on Jack Smith's investigations. My gut is that Mar-a-Lago is going to happen pretty soon. They brought Pence in already, and this is not a particularly complicated case. Trump's defense is, we heard it yesterday, he basically admitted he took the documents. He couldn't even say he doesn't still have classified documents. He didn't rule out showing them to other people. So, it looks really bad for him. The only claim he's got is they're my documents. And, maybe if you're a 3-year-old, you think everything that's in your hands is yours, but certainly no responsible national security official would ever take that claim. It's totally bogus and easy for Jack Smith to disprove.
I think it's confusing to a lot of people, though. He said last night Obama took classified documents, and certainly there were classified documents found in Joe Biden's house, right? And then who else had classified documents?
Pence.
Pence.
Vice President Pence.
And somebody else, I thought.
Well, Sandy
was
Berger
it Bill
in the
Clinton?
past.
I can't remember. But I think what's happened is you hear about that and it gets confusing in terms of how Trump is different than some of these other presidents.
So he's 100% different than all of these other examples in two respects. Number one, those other examples like Biden and Pence are people taking documents inadvertently. Like by mistake, secretary might have packed up something wrong, one document, something like that. The difference here is it's intentional. It looks like it's intentional, that Trump himself was directing some of this. When it's intentional, then it's more like the Sandy Berger case or other people who've intentionally tried to take classified material and they do receive punishment. The harder thing for Trump here, which no other fact pattern has, to my knowledge, occurred, is law enforcement asked for these documents back. He said that he had through his lawyers, conducted a search and turned over everything. The government, the archives said, no, we're still missing a bunch of stuff. Trump said, nope, I've turned over everything. So that's what led them to do that dramatic raid on Mar-a-Lago and find information. And now the Washington Post and others are reporting that Trump looks like he might have been behind all of those representations to law enforcement. And, that's different. That's pure obstruction of justice. It's, a separate violation. And the most serious one, because look, law enforcement knows sometimes people make mistakes or administrative assistants make mistakes. It's what you do about it afterwards. And
Right.
if you're lying about it afterwards, the government can't work that way. I mean, these are some of our nation's most precious secrets. They can't just be in your golf club.
So some people are saying that Trump deepened his legal jeopardy last night when he responded to questions about the investigation. What do you think of that?
Well, I think he already has such high, such criminal wrongdoing. It looks to me that, whatever he said yesterday, I'm not sure is going to swing it too much one way or the other. But it is just a representation of the fact that his defenses, such as they are, maybe they work, in his, right-wing ecosystem, but they're not going to work for law enforcement. The idea that you declassified these documents in your head, that is not a defense any day of the week in any court of law or with any prosecutors. It may be on Fox News, but it's not anywhere else.
Let me ask you, I know we've talked about this before, but we have all these swirling investigations, Neal. If he is convicted, well, I guess he was convicted in the E. Jean Carroll case, right? You've got the New York case, you've got the Georgia case, you got the DOJ investigations, right? If he is found guilty constitutionally, he can still run for president, right?
Well, it's a complicated question. So first of all, the New York Jean Carroll thing is civil.
Right.
So he's not criminally convicted. He's not going to go to jail. He does owe her $5 million.
They're
But
appealing that though, right?
Yes, they're going to appeal it. As I suggested a moment ago, I don't see a strong argument for appeal. The argument that they've been floating is that they couldn't get a fair trial in New York, which is going nowhere. And then Trump is accusing this judge of being Clinton appointed and very unfair to him. This is one of the most respected judges in the country. I think everyone acknowledges he's a straight shooter. So again, I think that's also going nowhere. So with respect to the others, which are criminal and could yield potential jail time or other criminal sanctions against Donald Trump, there isn't a formal prohibition in the Constitution that says if you're a criminal, then you can't run for office. But many of us think it's basically implied because, for example, if you're a felon, you can't vote. And the right to vote is very closely linked in our constitutional history to the right to be voted for. And so if you can't vote, the argument goes, you also can't be voted for. There are also some specific provisions in the Constitution, like seditious conspiracy, that bar you from holding further office.
Well, it seems like the 2024 election is approaching faster than any of us would like, probably, just because this whole, chaos is something that I'm not sure the country is ready to.
You don't miss the cray-cray? You don't miss the cray-cray?
I don't miss it. I don't miss it. But, and I think obviously there's some Democrats who have some real questions about Joe Biden and his ability to run a rigorous campaign as well. But, is all this stuff going to happen pretty soon before the election gets into full gear and we're looking toward November of 2024?
I do think that these cases that we've talked about are going to be moving soon. Yes, particularly in Mar-a-Lago, the stolen documents case. I feel like that's happening soon. We've already talked about Georgia coming out between July and September. And then that leaves the January 6th investigation, which is huge, which is sprawling, which has all sorts of nooks and crannies in it. But it's obviously an incredibly important investigation. And it's my hope that Jack Smith and Merrick Garland do the right thing, whatever that is. Like, I just don't want them to be afraid of what other people might say, or, Trump attacking them and things like that. They've got to be true law enforcement officers. And I have no reason to think there'll be anything but that to me is critical here.
What did you think of his comment that he plans to pardon everyone who has been convicted for January 6th?
Yeah, I mean, it's on brand for him. I mean, and, to me, that is exhibit A in why he's disqualified to be president of the United States. mean, look at those videos. Look at what happened. I mean, the idea that you'd want to pardon those people. I mean, you know, this guy is as un-American, as anti-American as they come.
What do you think of all this ProPublica reporting about Clarence Thomas and all this? I guess what would you
Yeah,
call it? Influence peddling? Is that what it would be
yeah,
called in legal
yeah.
terms?
I can't get into that, Katie. So I'm sorry, but that's something I can't talk about. So I appreciate you asking.
If you tell me, will you have to kill me?
I never want to kill you. You're the greatest. So thank you
Anyway,
for inviting me.
well, it's great to see you, Neil. It must be late there in
It
Brussels.
is. It is. Yeah. All
All
right.
right, well, get some sleep.
Okay.
Thank you for checking in.
Thank you.
Always great to see you, and we'll see you soon out east.